How are you developers? I hope you are all fine. Today we'll be learning about colors in CSS, and I hope you will have a wonderful session. So let's dive in and learn about CSS colors. If you have been following this course, you know about the repo that we forked, so you can just go to your repo and pull the changes to get the latest notes. If you are new, I'll provide the link of the repo in the video description, and you can clone the repo to access today's notes. If you open your cloned repo, you'll see this 06 folder, and if you had already cloned it some days ago, you can just use the git pull command to get the latest notes, that is this 06 folder. So this folder contains the notes that we'll use in this course. So I'll just create another file inside the folder called index.html. Like that. Also, I'll create another file called style.css. Then inside the HTML file, I'll just create my boilerplate there. I'll rename the title to CSS Colors. Like that. Then I'll add my link to my CSS file, like that. Then I think I'm set to go because I have my HTML here, CSS here. I'll open this note using this Markdown previewer. Close the notes, like that. So you can see I have my HTML file here, my CSS file here, and the notes on the right side. So these are the notes that I was telling you to pull them. So if you're set, you have all the three files. Let's dive in and learn CSS colors. In the past weeks, you have learned how to put colors in text and also how to add background colors. But now we are using the predefined color names like the red, blue, blurry wood. Those are predefined color names. But we can also define colors using the RGB, hex, HSL, RGBA, and HSLA values. So this RGB and hex or HSL values can help you get different shades of the same color. For example, if I want a shade of red, maybe there's no predefined name of that shade of red, so I can just play with the RGB values or the hex values to get that exact shade of red. And that is what we'll be doing in this class. So let me create a paragraph and say this is just a paragraph. Then I can use the element selector. I try to style this paragraph. So instead, we talked about the color. And in the previous classes, I'm just using defined color names like, let's say, tomato. So if I click on this, you can see this is the RGB value of that tomato. If I click, this is the X value. This is the HSL value, like that. So in my VS Code, I can change different color codes by just clicking. But we'll learn about each and every color code step by step. The first color code we'll learn is the RGB color code. So we'll start learning about the RGB. The RGB value represents red, green, and blue light sources. So you can define any color by varying the red light source, green, and blue light source. Let us see here in the example. So to use RGB as the color model, you have to use the RGB function, like that. This is the RGB function. Then here, the first value is the red value. As you can see there in the boilerplate, the first value is the red value. Here, the next value is the green value, and the last value is the blue value. And also, each value starts from 0 and goes to 255. So 0 is the least that a value can have, and 255 is the highest value that any color can have. So for example, if I wanted a pure red color, I'll just put the value of red to be 255, the value of green to be 0, the value of blue also to be 0. That way you can see I have a red color there. So if I put red maximum, then blue and green 0, I can get a pure red color. If I wanted a green color, I'll just put the red to be 0, then the green to be the maximum, that is 255. That way, then the blue to be just 0, there it was. That way you can see I get a pure green color. If I wanted a pure blue, just the same way, I put the red to be 0, the green to be 0, then the blue to be the maximum, that is 255. That way I can get a pure blue color. Also, if I wanted a black color, Black is the absence of all colors. So I can just put all colors 0 that way. So that way I can get a black color. And if I wanted a pure white color, I can just put all the colors to be maximum like that. Red to 55, green to 55. You can see if you mix red and green, you get yellow. So if I put red to 55, green to 55, you get yellow color. But if I put all of the values to 55, you get a white color. This is a pure white color. So that is how you can play with the RGB values to get different colors. And also you don't have to master these things. You can just click on this icon and select any color that you want. For example, I want a shade of blue. Just drag this one to here to blue. Then I choose the shade of blue that I want. You can see if I move this color here changes. So you can just play with it up to the place that I want. Let's say I want that color there. I can just leave it that way, and you can see I have that color there. And if I save my text, let's go to the browser and see what color will be the paragraph. So if you go to the browser, you can see now our paragraph is blue, but this is just a shade of blue. Let me go to the developer options and see. You can see that our paragraph, here it is. The color is this shade of blue. So you can see also the developer option has its own color picker. You can just put a different shade here by just dragging this color picker to any shade of blue that I want. So if I want a lighter version, I can just come to this lighter, and you can see that my paragraph is now a lighter version. That is how you can play with RGB. And I've said that this color models can give you a color that you can get that color does not have a predefined name. You can see, let's say this color, maybe it doesn't have a predefined name of that exact color. So you can use these RGB values to get any color that does not have a predefined name. And that is the advantage of using these RGB values. And also the rest that you look at them. They have a lot of color options that maybe the predefined names does not have. So that is it with the RGB. So let us look at the next color model. The next model that we talk about is the hex color. So let me just comment out this one, and that was for the RGB. So I'll put another color property here and use hex values. So hex values, hex color uses hexadecimal values, and if you don't know, hexadecimal values is a 16-digit number code. That is a number code. So it starts from 0 to 9, then has A, B, C, D, E, and F. So this is how the hexadecimal is. It runs from 0 to 9, then 10 is A, 11 is B, 12 is C, 13 is D, 14 is E, and 15 is F. So that is the hexadecimal. There are other number codes like the octadecimal, binary, but this is the one that we'll be talking about. This one is called hexadecimal. So the hex colors uses these hexadecimal values, and in hex, for you to define a hex value, you start with the hash symbol. Then the first two values are the values for red, next two values are the values for green, and the last two values are the values for blue. So hexadecimal has 16 digits. The first two digits are the values for red, the middle two digits are the values for green, and the last two digits are the values for blue. That is how you define a hexadecimal value. So if I wanted a pure red color, I'll put FF. FF, that is the maximum value that a hexadecimal can have. You can see F is the highest in the hexadecimal. So I'll put FF for red. Then the least value is 0, 0 for green. Then 0, 0 for blue. That will get a pure red color, because I put the first two values of the hexadecimal to be full, or the maximum value is FF. If I wanted a pure green color, I'll just delete these two zeros, and I'll put the first two values for red 0, 0, then the values for green FF, then the values for blue 0, 0. That way I can get a pure green color. I think you're getting the gist. This is for R. The first two values is for red, the next two values is for green, the last two values is for blue. So if I wanted a pure blue color, I'll just put 0, 0 for red, 0, 0 for green, then blue I'll put FF. That will get a pure blue color. You can see this is the color that I've got. So you can just vary the values to get just different colors. If I wanted a black color, I'll put all the values as 0. that is the absence of all colors. I'll get the black color. If I wanted a white color, I'll just put like that, all colors to be full. That is F for all colors. That way I can get a pure white color. Also, RGB, sometimes you can see other programmers using 3 values. So instead of writing 6 values, I can also use 3 values like that. And if I use 3 values, the first value will be for the red, the middle value will be for the green, and the last value will be for the blue. You can also use 3 values for the hex. So if I wanted a black color, I'll just put 3 zeros like that. That I can get a black color. If I wanted a red color, I'll just put F, then 0 0. If I wanted a green color, I'll put 0 F 0. That I can get a green color. If I wanted a blue color, I'll put 0 0 then F. I think you're getting the gist of how you can change the values of RGB. Also, you don't have to cram the values. As I said before, you can just click on this color picker that is there in the VS Code and adjust to any value. But you can see it's RGB, so you have to click to get this. This stands for hex. Hex is said that it starts with an hash, so that you can just select any color that you want. If I wanted a shade of green, I just go to this green here, then I choose any shade of green that I want. Let's say I want this light version of green, just select that color, and so you can see this one is the hex value for this color. And that way is how you can adjust the values for any color using hex value. And that is it with the hex. You can just go to the browser and confirm that this hex value is working, so that you can go to the next color model. So if you go to the browser, you can see that our color was applied to the paragraph. This is the color. Also in the hex, you can just click this and choose any color using the color picker that is available in the developer options. You can just select, let's say I want purple, I just select purple, then choose any color of any shade of purple like that. That way you can choose any value using the hex value. I think it's clear with the hex value. Let's go to the next color model. The next color model is the HSL color. So HSL stands for hue, saturation, and lightness. So you can specify a color using the hue, saturation, and lightness in the form HSL. So let me just comment this one. And so to specify the HSL color, use the HSL function like this, HSL. So you can see here the first value is for the hue, the next value is for the saturation, and the last value is for the lightness. So hue is just a degree in the color wheel from 0 to 360. So 0 is red, 0 degrees is red, 120 degrees is green, and to 40 degrees is blue. So somewhere between red and green there is yellow in between. Let me just show you the color wheels for yourself. You can see it clearly. Let me just show you the color wheel. So you can see there in the color wheel that 0 degrees is red, 120 degrees is green, then to 40 degrees is blue. So between yellow and green, at 60 degrees there you can get yellow. Also between green and blue at 180 degrees you can get that cyan color. Then between 240 and 360 degrees, between there like 300 degrees, you can get the magenta color. So that is the color wheel. You can just play with any color around that wheel by varying the value of the degrees. So that is the color wheel that we are talking about when talking about the hue degree. It's just the degree in that circle. So I think now it's clear. So let us continue learning about the saturation and the lightness. I think it's clear with the hue. So that is it with the hue. So saturation is a percentage value from 0 to 100%. And saturation is just what shade of that color do you want. If you put 100%, it's the full color. And if you put 0%, it's just a lighter shade of that color. That's how you can value the saturation. Do you want it to be more saturated or less saturated? So the other thing is the lightness. The lightness is also a percentage, and 0% in the lightness, 0% is black, 50% is neither light or dark, then 100% is white. So to get the exact color that you want, you just select the 50. If you want it to be a little bit lighter or whiter, you can adjust the value a little bit above above 50. If you want it to be less lighter, you can adjust the value less than 50. So if I wanted a pure red color, I'll just put the hue to be 0 degrees like that. I'll just put there 0. Then the saturation, I put it to be 100% so that I get the full color of the red, 100%. And the lightness, I'll just put the lightness to be 50% so that I don't have neither black or dark color. I want it to be the exact red color. As you can see, it's the exact red color. So this is how you can get the red. So if you wanted which color is that? Green color. You said green is 120 degrees. I'll just change this 0 to 120 like that, and I'll get a perfect green color. If I wanted a blue color, I'll just change the degrees here of the hue to be 240. Then I can get a blue color. Also, I've said that between 0 and 120, there's that 60 there, which is yellow. So if I put here 60, I'll get that yellow color. And also if I put here 180, I'll get the cyan color. I can see it there. And if I put 300, I'll get the magenta. You can see the color is there. So that is how you can play with the X values. Also, let me just use red. If I wanted a different version of red, let's say I wanted a red that is lighter, I'll just increase this value, let's say 70%. So you can see this red is a little bit lighter. You can see it's not the clear red, it's a little bit lighter. And that is how you can play with the values. Also, you don't have to cram these values. You can just click on here, on this color box, and just play with the colors and adjust any color that you want. And you can see the values of the hue, all of them are changing like that. Select any color that you want. So that is it with the hue. Let's look at the next color model. Now that you know about the RGB, the hex, and the HSL values, let us learn a little bit about the alpha. There's this thing called alpha. So alpha is similar to opacity that we learned the other day. So in RGBA, let me just comment this. This is HSL. Let me comment it out. So I'll paste this one below here. Then I'll comment it like this. So this is, you have already talked about RGB and you know how RGB works. So there's this thing called RGBA. So RGBA, for you to specify the RGBA, you add the A here. So it will be the RGBA function. So this A value specifies the opacity, how transparent you want the color to be. So you'll add a third value here for transparency. And the transparency starts from 0 to 1. So if you want the color to be fully transparent, you put the value of alpha to be 1. And that is the default. You can see there's no changes here. But if I wanted to vary the transparency, I want to be a little bit opaque, I'll just put, let's say 0.5. You can see there, the shade of blue has changed. But I've just varied the value of the alpha value. So if I want it to be opaque completely, I can just put 0. You can see it's just black. It has some values of red, blue, and green, but if you put the alpha value to be 0, it will be black. It will be just opaque, because the alpha value is opaque, not transparent at all. It is, and the value is fully transparent. So the color is transparent, so you cannot see the color, you just see the absence of that color, that is black. If you put 1, the color will be fully transparent and you can see the color very clearly. And that is how you adjust the value of the alpha value. So the alpha value just changes the value of the opacity. The same opacity that we talked about in the previous class. Just the same thing here. So that is it with the RGBA values. Also this HSL has I uncommented it. Let me just comment this one. Also this HSL has option of the alpha value. So for you to put alpha in the HSL, you just add here A. Like that, it will be HSLA. So this A value is for the alpha value, as you have said in the RGB. Start from 1. 1 is fully transparent, so 1 is the default value. And if you want it to be 1 is not transparent at all, so the color will be clear. If you want it to be transparent, fully transparent is 0, and that will be the color will not be visible, and it will be similar to writing a black color. And sometimes you can just value the color, maybe say 0.5, so it will be just same color but a different shade of that color, because I varied the value of the alpha value. So alpha is similar to opacity, and that is how you apply alpha in the RGB and the HSL color models. So in this hex there's nothing like opacity. So if you use hex and you want to use opacity, you just specify opacity like that, like the way you did before. Opacity, then you put the value from 0 to 1. Any value from 0 to 1 can fit here in the opacity property. Here talking about color models, so you can apply the opacity directly to the color models of the RGB and the HSL. So that is it with the color model. So the next thing we talk about is the CSS gradient. So gradients in CSS let you display a smooth transition between two or more colors. So let's just see it in action. I'll just create a division below the paragraph. I'll create a division there, and I'll give it a class of container. Let's see how you can style this division. So here in the CSS, I'll just say container using the dot. This is the class selector. Then I'll adjust the background image property. So let's talk about the gradient. So there are three types of gradient. There's the linear gradient, radial gradient, and the conical gradient. So the first gradient talk about is the linear gradient. So for you to apply a linear gradient, you have to use the linear gradient function. So there's a function called linear gradient that one there. For you to apply linear gradient, you have to use this function. Then this function accepts the first value is the direction. You can see in the notes. Let me just scroll down. You can see that the first value is the direction. The second value is the first color stop. Then the next value is the second color stop. And you can add as many color stops as you want. So a color stop is just a color that you want to render smoothly. It's just the color that you want to render smooth transition among each other. That is what we call a color stop. So for you to have a transition, you have to have at least two color stops. You cannot have only one color stop, because what will you be transitioning to? So you have to have at least two colors, or you can use even more than two, but the least that you can use should be two. So let's see how the linear gradient works. So for direction, I just leave it blank because the default direction is from top to bottom. So I just say here red, like that, then green. Or let me mix red and yellow. I think red and yellow is the good combination of these colors. So let us save and go to the developer option and go to the browser and see how that looks like. And we'll adjust different values using the developer options in the browser. So if you go to the browser, you'll notice that we cannot see our container because I think we forgot the, where is it? We forgot the width and the height. So I just had the height property and say, let's say 300 pixels, so that you can see the container. You can see the container is now visible. Also I'll add the width here. Also width I'll put 300 pixels, like that. So you can see our container is now visible. I think it's I'll just reduce it to 200 pixels. I think 300 is too huge. I'll just put it at 200. Both the height and the width, I'll put it as 200 pixels so that it can fit in a single page. So yeah, our container is now visible, and you can see how the two colors transition. So you can see the transition from top to bottom. So you can see the topmost part is the red part, and the bottom part is the yellow part, and in the middle there's a mixture of both colors. That way you can get a smooth transition from top to bottom. And for example, if I want the transition to move from left to right, I'll just adjust here in the gradient. You have said that the first value that the gradient expects is a direction. So here I can say 2. Let me just put a comma there. Now I say 2 to right, like that, to right. That is the transition will start from left to right. I think you can see the first color is the red, it is in the left. The second color is the yellow, it's in the right. Then in the middle, between the left and the right, you can see there is those smooth transition of the two colors. And that is how you use the linear gradient for direction from left to right. You can also make it like diagonal. So you can say to bottom right, like that, to bottom right. So this is the bottom right here. Bottom right is this bottom right angle. So the yellow color will be at the bottom right, the red color will be at the top left. So the colors will transition from top left to bottom right. So here in the diagonal is where the two colors will be transitioning smoothly. So that is how you can adjust the colors of those things. You can also use some angles. Instead of writing this to right to left, if you're a math person, you can just use the angle. So if you use 180 degrees, it will be from top to bottom. That is how you use 180 degrees. And if I put, let's say, I think it's 70, is it 70? I think to 70 will be diagonally. To 70 will be diagonally. No, to 70 is from right to left. Right to left is 70. 90 is down, that is diagonally, 90 degrees. So you can just play the colors to get a perfect. 90 is from right, 90 is from left to right. So if you put something like 45 degrees, is when you can get the diagonal. 45 degrees, you can get that diagonal 45. Yeah, you can see 45 is diagonal from bottom left to top right, like that. And that is how you can mix any colors to get the smooth transition using the angles. And as we have said before, you can put, it's not just two colors, you can put more than two colors, any number of colors that you want. If I put here, let's say green, you can see there's a transition of 3 colors. You can see there's red, there's yellow, then there's green. Let me just remove these degrees, or I put here 180 degrees for it to run from top to bottom. You can see from top it's red, then in the middle there is yellow, then at the bottom it is green. And that is how you can use the linear gradient to change a variety of options. Also, you can just put, after that you can put as many colors as you want. So if you want to make the rainbow, you can put all the rainbow colors there. Let me just put all the rainbow colors for you to see that you can put more than. Also, rainbow is red, orange, then yellow, then green, then blue, then indigo, then the final color of the rainbow is the violet color. So you can see how that thing transitions there. So those are the 7 colors of the rainbow. I put all of them in one container. Starting from the top is the red, going down is the violet. You can see that is something like the rainbow. And we learned about the border radius. You can just apply a border radius here and make it to, where is it, border radius, border. Let's say border radius of something like, I'll just say border radius, where is it? It has gone. You can just carve this container, border radius. Yeah, you can just play with it and make anything that you want. I wanted to make it curved, but the developer options are disturbing, so I'll just leave it. So that is how you can play with the colors. You're just learning about the linear gradient, and I've seen how you can use the linear gradient to make anything. There's also another thing called repeating linear gradient. So if you want this linear gradient to repeat, you can use this function called repeating linear gradient. So I'll just put here repeating linear gradient, repeating linear gradient. Then you can set, let me just remove this 180 degrees so that can up, and then let me also reduce the number of colors. Let me just use 3 colors. Oh, those are 4. Let me remove this orange so that can have red, yellow, and green, like that. You can just put here like what position do you want the color to transition. I'll just say 10%. You can see at 10% is where the yellow is starting. You can see, and I want the green to start at also yellow percent, 20%, not yellow percent, 20%. Then that you can see how the repeating linear gradient works. You can see how the colors are repeating there in the mountain. So that is how you can use the repeating linear gradient. So I think it's okay with the linear gradient. We can look at the next one, that is the radial gradients. So let's look at the radial gradients. So you can notice that the codes that we wrote them in the developer options, so the codes are not visible in our VS Code until you copy those codes and paste them here. But I'll just, where is the content? I'll just add the width and the height here manually. The width should be 200 pixels and also the height should be 200 pixels. Height. Because as we said in the previous classes that if you change the codes in the developer options, they won't reflect in your code until you copy and paste them here. But they'll be reflecting in the browser in the developer options. So the next thing is the radial gradient. Where is it? This radial gradient. And the radial gradient starts at the gradient is defined by its center. So you start from the center, then you choose any colors. So let us look at the radial gradient and look at it in the developer options. Let's go to the browser and see how we can change the background image to use the radial gradient instead of the linear gradient. So for you to use the radial gradient, I change this function here from linear gradient to radial gradient, like that. So if I just put two colors, you can see there, it starts from the center. You can see that the gradient starts at the center, then it spreads going the other sides from the center, and that is how you define a radial gradient. So the radial gradient, you can specify this shape here. I'm not sure if you can see this shape of mine, but the default shape is supposed to be an ellipse. Let me just adjust let me put more colors. You can see, but you can see that the color starts from the middle. So that is the difference between the linear gradient and the radial gradient. And similar to the linear gradient, you can put more than one color here. You can put more than one color. Like I've put two colors, you can just specify like 3 colors or 4 colors. There's no problem. And you can adjust the similar also to the. Let me just put 3 colors. Let me put red, yellow. Let me add some green color there. Green. And you can see the 3 colors. So I can adjust the position here of the red. I'll say red 5%. Then yellow, I'll say something like 15%. Then green, something like 60%. Like that. So you can see to create that beautiful transition between the 3 colors. And that is how you can define the color position. You can just play the percentages and also the colors to see how different outputs can come. I think that is it with the radial gradient. But there's also, I've seen here in the notes, you can also put here some keywords to define the size. So you can say like closest side. Here you can just say here closest side at like this, closest side at 60%. Like that. Let's say 60 and 55%. Then I put a comma there. So you can see this has moved. It is not at the center. It has moved slightly to this left side and bottom side. Initially it was at the center, but now I've moved it using this closest side value. There's also another one called farthest side. Let me just remove this position so that they don't affect the closest side and the farthest side. So is this green? I just remove this percentage in green that way. So you can see how that closest side is. And also I can put this to be farthest side. Like that. And you can see it spreads even more wider. And that is how you can adjust the gradient with those keywords. And also similar to the linear gradient, the radial gradient also has a repeating radial gradient. So I'll just put here repeating. The function name I'll rename it to repeating radial gradient. Repeating radial gradient. Then let me just remove this position so that it starts at the middle. Let me just remove this position so that it starts at the middle. Then I can adjust the position of the red. The yellow, let me adjust the yellow to be 10%. You see how that will be. And then the green to be something like 15%. I think 15% will work. Yeah, that one. So you can see that is how you put the repeating linear gradient. You can see just the same as how we put the repeating linear, but this one is the repeating radial. So it starts at the center, then it repeats in circular movements. And that is how you add the repeating linear gradient. So I think that is it with the radial gradient. Let's talk about the next gradient, that is the conic gradients. So as you can see in the notes that a conic gradient is a gradient with a color transition rotated around the center. And if you want to use a conic gradient like the other gradients, you just have to use at least 2 colors. And for you to use the conic gradient, you have to use the conic gradient function. You can see in the notes there is that syntax of using the conic gradient. You can use an angle, or you can specify at position. Then you can put colors with different degrees. So if there's no degrees, the color will be spread equally around the center point. But if you put degrees, the color will be spread according to the degrees that you put. So let us go to the browser and see how the conic gradient looks like. Or I can just, let me just use this. Let me use my VS Code for now. Conic gradient. Then I'll put, okay, I think yellow, green is okay. Let me just add a third color here so that you can see the effects. Let me add here green. Let me save this code. So let's go to the browser and see how this conic gradient is. So if you go to the browser, you can see how the conic gradient is. It starts from the center, but it goes with different angles. If you don't specify the angle, it will be 0 degrees, and that is how it looks like. So just like the other ones, you can also put more than 2, or you can put any number of colors that you want. So let us try with 5 colors. Let me just add blue and black. You see how that will look like. Let me just add here blue and also add black, like that. So you can see there are 5 colors in that gradient. And also you can specify the degrees. How many degrees do you want each color to be? So let me just, you have seen you can put more than 1 color. Let me go back to the 3 colors that we had before, and let me specify the degree of each color. So I want the red one to go up to 45 degrees, so I'll just put here 45 degrees, like that. Then the yellow color to start from 90 degrees going onwards, so I'll say here 90 degrees, like that. Then the green color to start from 210 degrees. I'll just put here 210 degrees. 210. Like that. So you can create something like that by varying the degrees. I think that is how you use the conical gradient. Let me just try the thing that I wanted that last time. Let me just put here border radius here below the width. I want to put here some border radius so that you can have something like a pie chart. Border radius. The radius of 50%. That can be, the container can be a circle like that. So you have a circle there. So you can just adjust the colors of the red. Let me just put these colors to be even. So I'll say the red starts at 0 degrees up to 90 degrees. So I'll just put here red. The red should start at 0 degrees. Then also there will be a red again. A red again that will start from 90 degrees. Then after red we go to yellow. Yellow will be starting from 90. Then yellow will go up to, let's say, 180 degrees. So I'll put here yellow 180 degrees. 180 degrees, like that. So you have seen that the red will take the first quarter, because I said the red starts from 20 up to 90. You can see that is the whole first quarter. Then yellow will start from 90 to 180. They put 180, yeah. Now yellow will end up to here. So you want also the green to start from that 180. So I'll just put here green 180. So green will start to 180. And also this angle here is 180 plus 5, I think it's something as 270. So green will start at there and end at 270. So I'll say green 270 degrees, so that it ends somewhere there. Then I'll put a third color, let's say blue, which will start at 270 degrees. Yeah, that is the thing that I wanted to achieve. So I can also add another blue here. It's not a must for you to add because you already achieved that shape. So you can see I can put 4 colors. I specify the position of the start and the end to create this beautiful pie chart between that and that. And that is how you can use the conical. That is how you can use the conic gradient. And I think that is it for today, guys. You learned about the color models, the RGB, the HSL, the hex, the RGBA, HSLA. I also learned about the CSS gradient, the linear gradient, the radial gradient, and I've learned the conic gradient. I think that is it for today. So see you in the next class. Peace out.